Right, hello and welcome to part 2 of making a portable line boring machine. If you haven't seen part 1, I'll link it in the description where I was making the lead screw for it. So in part 2 I'm going to be making the end plates, well the plates that go onto the round bar. So I've plasmed them out of 2mm to start with, just so I can get an idea of what it's going to look like. Make sure my clearances and everything are right between the drill and the feed unit, because I want to make it as tight and compact as I can. So this is my end piece that clamps onto the bearing that holds the whole thing. This is the middle one. That one that's clamps onto the drill, and then these will go through them holes. And then that's the end plate that the auto feed unit bolts onto. I'm going to do that out with 30mm as well. I'm going to use my Magic Eye profiler, but for that to follow I need an actual physical drawn out pattern for it to follow. So that's my little pen holder that I made. I could do with a bit more refining, but it seems to work. So you just put your Sharpie in there, and then a little spring on the top, and then I just have some magnets that put tension on the spring, and then you slow it down onto your card, and then just cut it out like you would do normally. Right, so I've got the file loaded in, got the pen set up and the card set up. Should be ready to go now. So that's them drawn out, and it works. It came out pretty well with them. There might be a bit there I have to go around again just by hand, but it makes it so much easier when you can draw it like that, rather than having to draw all that out by hand after you've already drawn it on the computer. So I'll do them other holes that it needs after I've got them machined. I'll put it in the milling machine, and then I can do them holes. But that'll be fun because my milling machine is in Imperial and I'm metric. Alright, so I'm just getting these patterns set up now on the profiler to make sure the Magic Eye follows it. What I've realised is when I drew the pattern for these, I made that hole like the actual size that it needs to be. But then when I wanted to draw these out, I was going to make them holes smaller, so I had some to machine out, which I've forgotten to do. So I'll have to try and add a bit. Add another line a bit smaller around there, so then when I put it in the lathe I've actually got something to machine out to size. Doesn't matter so much with this one because the bit that clamps onto I'm going to have to make anyway, but this one clamps onto the end of the drill, which is 65mm, and that's what that is now. So that wants to be like 60mm. Then I've got a few millimetres to machine out to get it a nice tight fit onto the drill. So this is my high-tech solution to drawing circles. Works well. So we're ready to cut out now. I've gone around the pattern, make sure it follows it alright. And I've got the plate lined up, ready. And I'm just using a bit of off-cut 30mm plate that I've got. I'll cut this bit out with 30mm as well. Probably along there somewhere where it fits best, maybe like that. So I'll just run that round now without it cutting, just to make sure it follows the pattern properly. And then make sure it matches up with the plate. I can move my torch separate to the rail, so I can line my torch up. So that's both of them cut out at 30mm. Cut out pretty nice. Just want cleaning up. I haven't got the right nozzle for cutting 100mm, so I have to get a bigger nozzle, and then I can cut the other end plate out. That's one end. That's the end that the auto feed milling machine thing goes on. That's just one that will clamp onto the drill, and then the other end is what will clamp onto the bearing. Right, so I've got this end piece clamped down. I'm going to drill through the middle with a 23mm drill, and then I'm going to do them holes 6 inches apart. I'm going to do them imperial because the dials on my mill are imperial. It doesn't have a digital readout on it. So I know once I've done that one, I can do 12 turns. 12 turns will get me to 3 inch and then back across to that side to do that one. I've got all my dials working, so I can unlock them, zero them out. So the middle one I'm going to drill all the way through. The two end ones I'm only going to drill halfway through, and then I'm going to ream her out to 25mm. And then the bars that go into there, I'll turn a bit down on the end of the bars, so it's got something proper to locate on. So that's that done. They're turned out to, well, reamed out to 25mm with a 12mm hole through the middle. And then the bar that goes into there, I'll machine the end down to 25mm and then tap it and thread it. Drill it and tap it, and that'll fit in there with a bolt through from that side to hold it together. I need to put it in the 4-jar chuck, but I've just ordered a 4-jar and it hasn't come yet, so I'm just waiting for that to come. I can hold that in the 4-jar chuck. I can bar that out to fit that bearing in. These are not really the right bearing for the job. I wanted, it needs thrust bearings really, but just for the sake of easiness, I'm going to use a 6304 bearing. Now, these have a static load of 7.8 kilonewtons, and they say actual load you can have 10 to 30% of that static load as your thrust load. So I'm going to go for the big end and say 30%, and 30% of that is 238 kilos. So there'll be 2 of them, one at this end and one at the other end, so that'll be like half a ton of thrust load. So hopefully that'll be enough. If not, I'll have to do something better. I'll have to replace these with a proper thrust bearing, but for easiness for now I'm just going to use these. And with this, I've pulled it down with the clamps as tight as I can, and then I've tacked it up across there. I'm going to hold that in the 4-jar chuck. I'm going to bar that out to 65mm, and then when I cut them tacks off, it'll spring open a little bit. So I'm not fighting against, if I ever want to take the drill out, I'm not fighting against that, trying to open that up to get it off the drill, because when I undo that bolt, it'll automatically spring open, hopefully, and then I can get the drill out. I'm going to do the same with the big end that holds onto the bearing. I'll have to machine that out to size, and then I'll have to put it back in the milling machine, and then I'll have to find the centre of that, and come down like 100mm, 4-inch, and then do the same as what I did with this. But they want to be out to 45mm for the bearings to go in. And then I need a nut, like a brass nut to go in there for the lead screw to drive on. Right, so I've got my 100mm plate loaded onto the cutting bed. It's quite thick. I've got nozzle, a VVC2 nozzle put in. I'm just looking at the cut speeds and pressures. This is what I've got. These are high-low nozzles, same thing, and the pressures on this is different to what it says on the Harris website. So this for 75 to 125mm plate, it says you need 50 psi of oxygen, but on the Harris website it says you need 6.9 bar, which is like 100 psi of oxygen. So I think I'm going to go after these settings first, see how I get on with that. It's just, I'm not quite sure what speed I need to go, because I've never cut 100mm plate before. So I think I'm going to go around the plate first, not cutting, just with the torch going to preheat it a bit, and then we'll go ahead and try and cut it out. So I've got my test piece cut off. It cut pretty nicely. That it was a bit hot to start with, then if it cuts it all out like that, it's spot on. I just had to chop a bit off at the end because it's concave like that. The flame ran out of metal to cut in the middle, so I just had to chop that last bit off. But yeah, no, that should be right. So that's that cut round. I'm actually pretty excited to get it out and see what it looks like, but it's too hot at the moment, so I think I'll have to go and have my tea and then come back, get it out after tea when it's cooled down a bit. So I decided I'm going to remove it now. I can't wait until I have to have my tea. So there's a bit I've chopped through there, cut that bit off again. Just a little bit there where the torch was lagging behind on the last bit, but I'll have to nip through with grinder. But looks alright that, I hope it's the same quality inside there. So I'm giving that a bit of a clean up with grinder, and it's come out well. I'm pleased with that. A few spots where it's got a bit hot, but that doesn't matter too much. There's a little bit I hadn't quite cut, I had to just nip that off with grinder, but I'll mill that flat so it doesn't have all that pitted bits in it. You might be thinking that is a bit excessive, and you're right, it is excessive, and I underestimated how heavy 100mm plate is. So I think I'll mill the bottom off down to about 30mm, make it a bit lighter. But I wanted the width, wanted 100mm width, so when it clamps onto the bearing, it's going to be true. And if you've only got something that wide clamping onto it, there's a chance you might not get it true. Didn't have any heavy wall tube or anything to weld anything on to, if I did a bit that thickness, I didn't have anything to weld onto it, and I didn't really want anything, I didn't want to weld anything onto it. I just wanted one solid lump. It'd been better made out of aluminium, but I don't have any aluminium. I've already got this. It was just a bit of offcut plate that I got for very cheap, and I just wanted to see if I could cut it. It'll take me a bit of time to mill off all that, but it doesn't really matter because I'm not taking time into consideration when it's just something I'm making for myself as a bit of a project. So I also turned a bit down on the end of them round bars so they'd fit into there. Just got an M12 bolt holding them in, and then rollers will go up and down on there. So I've ordered a 4-jaw chuck for my lathe so I can hold these in, but that hasn't arrived yet. Should be arriving tomorrow. So until then I can't really do much more. So that'll do for part 2. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.